Well, hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Nathan Turajski, your host, Senior Director of Product Marketing for Data and AI Governance at Informatica. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Brian Dummann, Vice President of IT and Chief Data Officer at AstraZeneca. One thing I am really curious about, you're mentioning empowering all of these, team members. Is great. But going back to the challenges, there must be some degree of a conflict between like what your business leaders expect and the challenges of like who decides like which of these projects to pursue. Is it just whoever has
The
the best
business.
ideas can
It's the
surface them?
business. Yeah, there
Mm,
is no central group, not mine or any other, that
okay.
determines what projects we will or won't do. We need to
Interesting.
balance the risk, but the goal is to give our business leaders and their teams the ability to determine what they will or won't pursue.
Hmm.
And, obviously, we're all looking at what's the value, what's the impact. We have a
Yeah.
finite set of resources and an infinite opportunity to transform the world with healthcare. So I think everybody is out to make the right value trade-offs, um, and we don't see a central group determining what is or isn't going to be done,
Hmm.
but we will provide central guidance and support and process around governance, right? Because the regulations are clear.
Yeah.
Certainly have a great amount of work around responsible AI that we've done. We were one
Yeah.
of the first pharma companies to introduce some
Hmm.
very thoughtful work around responsible AI, AI ethics, and how do we lead in that way. So I think that we've equipped our business leaders and their teams with the right pieces, um, but I think there's some missing parts that I talk about around how we manage risk and how we work through the approvals, where we're trying to push more of that approval into the business area,
Hmm.
and then have more of the enablement come from the center. And
Yep.
yeah, that's a little bit of a journey still underway. I think we still have a few of our processes that tend to think there's a central group that needs to approve, but when we
Mhm.
drill in and hear those escalations, we're actually more and more pushing it back into that business area to really guide their own decisions and determine what they can and can't do. So that keeps the central group away from being that bottleneck and
Okay.
not one decision maker for sure in the company for what we chase.
Yeah. Well, something I want to follow up with that you mentioned is you mentioned governance, and I'm kind of curious. It's you sound very you have a lot of clarity when it comes to how the organization operates, and I'm just sort of curious. Data governance, it's a well-established discipline. It sounds like
Mm.
you've got a great program in place to provide guidance where needed. I'm wondering how AI governance comes into the picture now. Are you seeing a lot of change, a lot of adjustment? Is it pretty
Well,
much?
the first question you need to ask is AI governance something separate than data governance?
Mhm.
We have an enterprise data council with senior leaders in the business, and we brought this question as the EU AI Act, kind of the first formal and structured AI governance instrument, kind of came into play. We early on brought the question: does AI governance just fall under the data governance umbrella for risk?
Mhm.
Our answer was yes, and so we've got our AI governance capability and some really strong talent that are driving that sitting within our enterprise data office and then leveraging the same structure that we have. We do have a federated structure of data offices in the company,
Mhm.
um, but the central policy and control and tools capabilities come from the enterprise data office. The other data offices are, in addition to managing and governing data, are also the accountable group to ensure that we've got the right AI governance in place. And that's worked really well. So I think the first question is where do you run your AI governance?
Mhm.
And again, to risk, because our focus on governance is around risk, we combined that. And then it's interesting, you start to find some other parallels, right? Is cataloging data a lot different than cataloging AI, which is
Mhm.
a pretty critical component?
Mhm.
Um, a lot of the risk processes that you're assessing and a lot of the groups that need to be involved are very similar. Um, and so I think that's our approach. We tried not to make it another group, another committee. It's kind of like you don't need another app on your phone, right? We didn't
Yeah.
want to create yet another thing. We do have a separate AI and analytics standard within the company that defines how we work, but it fits in hand with the other data governance policies. Uh, and that's probably the newest element of our data governance practice is the AI risk governance process.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying in terms of keep it consistent. You keep it simple, and you can essentially apply many of the best practices already honed over the years into applying them to AI. It sounds like you also mentioned risk, a focus on risk, but certainly risk and business opportunity, business value do go hand in hand. I am curious if you're able to control the risk of AI abuse and treat AI responsibly and ethically, all these
Mm.
good things you're trying to achieve. How is it then you are able to demonstrate the business value to those business leaders as business stakeholder? Are there specific metrics or tools that you use or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So we've actually had some work underway internally to look at AI and make sure that we're measuring value in the same way. And in a matter of it, AI isn't any different than any other investment that you make in the business, right? You're
Mm,
either going to minimize risk, you're going to reduce internal cost or drive productivity, efficiency, or you're going to create some level of growth or new business opportunity. I don't think how we measure the benefits out of AI initiatives is a lot different, but I think the ingredients that go into determining what's going to be successful or not
mhm,
are maybe a little different, right? We see that we've got to look at the business change dynamic and the sponsorship because to get value out of an AI initiative, a traditional IT project might automate a process. So you're not really changing the process, but you're making it run faster.
mm,
With AI, what we're finding is that the path to value is often reimagining and rewiring an entire business process. So there's a
mhm,
higher element of business change management and business readiness that I think is a critical part. Um, there's also a little element of just, is the data and are the technology pieces are the things that make something technically feasible in place or not? Not
mm,
a new question. People
mhm,
would have asked that about projects before, but there's new dimensions to it, and new regulations that are coming along and challenging. Well, I can do that, but I can do that in certain countries, but maybe not others. And think about I want to build a solution or take a use case live, but this model can be used in this country, but not that country. So there are new dimensions. But in the end, I don't think how you actually, think about or recognize value is
mm,
different from AI than any other business investment. But the criteria that you use to weight and prioritize or to shape where you lean in and double down and where you back off, there are some nuances to that. And we're trying to equip again the business leaders and those distributed across our business who are making these day-to-day decisions to understand kind of the ingredients of success so that we have a higher uh, margin of success out of the work that we're doing, and also that we have good lessons learned
mhm,
around what hasn't worked or where we've been stuck. And so it's a lot more about collaboration and making sure we go down the right path and
mhm,
stop things that aren't going to be successful early,
yeah.
uh, than it is about a whole new instrument to measure value.
Okay. But when you think about like your senior leaders, for example, do you find that there's some skepticism as to like the value AI is going to provide? And how do you
Mm.
communicate any differently those benefits or outcomes of your AI
We
projects? Or
er,
yeah.
yeah, we are doing I think look, AI has created a lot more energy and attention than we just got out of IT. So there's a higher level of energy and enthusiasm about it. So I think that's created a higher pull.
Yeah.
Um, again, I think every culture of a company is different. From our CEO on down, I think it's been very clear that AI is a tool for innovation,
Mm,
and
mhm,
we need to take advantage of it. And I think that uh, our business leaders are realistic. I
mhm,
think they understand that sometimes things are harder to do than you might. They get that.
yeah.
I think they do a great job creating this enthusiasm around applying AI, and the other part of it is we are a growing business.
Mhm,
You've last year we recorded about $45 billion in revenue. By 2030, we've gone on the record that we'll be an $80 billion revenue
mm,
company per year. That's almost doubling the size of the business. A
yeah.
little bit of this is okay, we've got to grow, but let's not do that with brick and mortar and everything in an equal form.
Mhm,
How do we grow the business in a more efficient way? I think we've used AI as a path to say, hey, wait a minute, there's a force multiplier that if we can get this right, we can not just automate and supplement the work we do, but fundamentally, in some cases, redefine it so that we can grow as quickly as that is to a larger company. Because doubling the size of a company through internal growth, that's really hard to do. And we just did that in the last 3 or 4
Okay.
years. So we're
Wow.
going to do it again. So I think that's created this other dynamic of getting the leaders energized. But I think even for a company where maybe there isn't that growth,
Mhm.
uh, it takes the business leaders to be enthusiastic, realistic still, but I think that creates a nice creative tension where the leaders are pushing their teams, and I see that in every one of our groups. So I think if anything, it's all about how do we help focus and maybe slow down some of our work because it's really hard to keep up with all of the interest and the energy. Um, and I
Yeah.
think we're still seeing, as technology evolves,
Mm.
the light bulbs go on now new things that we can maybe tackle. So continuous learning.
Thanks, Brian. I really enjoyed getting your perspective today. And just as a reminder, for more interviews and insights, everyone can visit cdomagazine.tech and get more of this great guidance and insights and help to accelerate your road ahead with data and AI. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.